So I just have a unique skill set.
Having the lawyer background, how did that help you with the private side of it, but then also being an actual coach and making sure that you're crossing your T's and dotting your I's?
Um, I I think the interesting thing about coaching, and this is why I don't prefer to coach when I say normal people, I'll just use that word like when I say civilians, because we work with a lot of like tier one military guys. Like we have we do a bunch of stuff with Naval Special Warfare Development Group. So like working with like what I call tier one guys that are high level, like this is what they do for a living. This is how they put food on the table, professional athletes in the same realm. I like working with those guys because there's never a moment where you want it more than they do. When I owned a gym, a commercial gym, and we had people come in, I found that a lot of times I would get more excited by their progress than they would. And I found that I wanted the success and I wanted them to do better more than they wanted it. And when that realization happened, and the people just didn't care as much as I did, I knew it was time to go and not have that job anymore. So I kind of pulled back, and we worked a lot on Power Athlete, and I still train professional athletes and tier one guys and guys that are like really hard chargers, door kickers, guys that go in harm's way, like that type of stuff where like it means something. Like that is the type of people I want to work with, just like the guy who's trying to get in shape for his wedding and then he hits his wedding and never works out again, or somebody that's just looking to tone. Even though I'm sure we have a ton of those people, like I'm really not your guy, like in person. And I get hit up a lot by a lot of people to come and train with me. There's at least every time I go to JITS, I got some guy. It's like, hey man, I'd really like to come work out with you, and I'm like,
Do you really?
Yeah,
I don't think you would.
Yeah, no, I mean, not to say they wouldn't do well. It's just not what really wakes me up in the morning.
No, yeah, I mean, you're speaking to my soul with that, because on that same last episode when you were talking about, not wanting to start a gym just because like people not putting things away, like just getting over that, like, but balancing the fact that, how do you have a team of people around you too? Like how difficult was it for you to hire people and build your team out?
I've never been very good at that. I think the reason being is I was on Mark Ripto's podcast last week, and I had an interesting segment and some realization, doing a little soul searching about myself, and that I'm a process-driven person. Right, as an NFL player, you have to be process-driven.
Yeah.
Right. I'm going to
line up, because if not, you're going to get cut.
Yeah. Or you're winning and losing with wins and losses in individual plays, right? So like I'm going to play 70 plays. The guy next to me who I'm working with, he might get hurt and leave, and I got to bring in another person. So I have to have a process in place to be able to move with like moving pieces, right? Like we have to be able, we could be up, we could be down, whatever, regardless of what happens, like I saw, who was it? Miami hung 70 on,
Denver yesterday.
On Denver, right? Those guys are going to have, they probably were acting like they won the fucking Super Bowl. They are going to absolutely tank next week, right? Because they were too high, right? They did like they don't have the process in place to go in and beat somebody by 70. If the New England Patriots beat somebody by 70 points, they would have a process in place to go beat somebody the next week. The Miami Dolphins, I'll be very surprised if they go in and win, mark my words, just because they don't have the process, man. Like they just haven't been there. And so with everything, that like process-driven deal, it means you're going to have bumps. It means that guys are, people are going to be inconsistent, like no bigs, no ups, downs. So I think as an employer, I'm in the process, and I probably suffer fools, and I allow people more leeway than I will or I should, opposed from somebody who's more outcome, where it's like, fuck you can't do the job, you got to go. Whereas I have this weird suspicion, and this is probably a fucking ego shortcoming of mine. I firmly believe that I can be the water to break the rock. Like if somebody's a rock, I can be the water. All you got to do is just key it up, cool, and give me an opportunity, and I'll break that rock. And you get to the point where it's like, shit, man, it's been 7 years, and your rock is fucking not worth breaking. Get the fuck out. So As long as I have somebody around me, like a Rogio who's real good, like that's what I liked about the NFL, right? Like there was a GM, there was a player personnel guy who was evaluating people, not out of emotion, ego, or anything, but can they do the job today? And if they can't, and that's their responsibility to give me the best parts to play with, right? So if the guy playing next to me isn't good, then bring in somebody else. But my process doesn't change because it doesn't matter who they put next to me. But I'm trusting that they can remove those pieces. I just haven't done a good job of like getting into the front office. And I remember when I retired, I had some offers to like go and do some front office stuff, and I was like, man, I just don't know, like if I would have the.
Quick break from the show to remind you to hit that like and subscribe button. It helps us out and it helps you be notified when we have new content get released. So again, please hit that like and subscribe button if you enjoy this content. And with that, let's get back to the show.
Like the cutthroat nature because I'm constantly trying to remove the rubble, trying to find the best, and like, okay, this guy's got this, he can do this, opposed from the guy's like, oh, fuck that guy, he can't play, get him out of here. I just don't know if I'd be good at that.
Is that why it works? It sounds like you're saying, hey, essentially kind of find, your niche and kind of still continue to operate within that. As you've continued to grow, is that why you're continuing to just stay on like the coaching side of it and not continue to aspire that way? Or do you want to eventually evolve and be able to do that?
We do. I mean, we do coaches education and that piece. We do a lot of programs which are more like A to B type of stuff where we're actually coaching athletes through programs. We do an annual collective. We had about 51 of our coaches show up a couple weeks ago for, to kind of go through one of the new programs that I just put out, which was I got tasked to work with, if you guys are in the BJJ world, a guy named Victor Hugo from Six Blades. He's like the top ultra in the world. So Victor, his coach, Shanji Hibero, was pretty famous too in the BJJ world, reached out to me through a mutual friend and said, hey, I got a young athlete, if you could help him. So Victor came over, brought his 2 training partners, and he was having some serious back injuries, L4, L5 issues, and had never really lifted weights, had never done any traditional strength and conditioning, and was one of the top ultras in the world. And I was really fascinated by jiu-jitsu as a sport because it's like a 360-degree kind of gyroscope.
Yep.
And when I think about athleticism and more importantly like training, I really picture in like standing. Like imagine like a linebacker or a baseball player or a football player. Like I imagine somebody in this kind of like standing vertical, horizontal, or like vertical, position. And then I'm watching jiu-jitsu and it's like, dude, these guys are like here, it's prime, it's supine, it's here, it's like 360 degrees. And I was like, man, I wonder if what I know of athleticism extends to something that's like a gyroscope. So I thought, man, this is a really interesting model and an interesting sport. And what was fascinating is Victor is such a gifted jiu-jitsu player, like just so skilled, but yet lacked the basics of strength and conditioning. Like I'm talking about like high school basics, just because it's not part of their culture. So when he came in that first day, I was like, these are professional athletes? And I was like, you know what? This is fascinating to me. So I took those guys and, and what they've accomplished in the year is pretty much short of like amazing. We fixed Victor's back and he's able to do a lot of things that he couldn't do before. And, it's put him in a position where, he went in a couple weeks ago and he had a big super fight against Marigali. And Marigali ended up getting him on this little kind of sweep. And Victor should have stood up and instead he rolled out and he stood on him. So he lost by 2 points. So, I mean, but like what's kind of hard for me with jiu-jitsu is a dude rolling for 10 minutes who scores a 2-point advantage and he stands up and starts beating his chest that he's the best in the world. Like, seems like fucking horseshit to me. Like, if you want to be the best, you got to submit the best. Like, I'm not winning shit on points, and I'd be embarrassed to say anything less. But, but then here's the deal. We're process driven. So this is just one piece in his process, and there'll be plenty more, but like, this is just a bump. We make corrections and we keep moving on. It's not like that's the end of it. So that piece has been really good. But yeah, working with those athletes and helping them develop. But I designed a custom program for them, or actually the custom program kind of like evolved for those guys, and it's called Dragon Slayer. So I brought in 50 of our coaches for a weekend, showed them the training, took them through the training, and then we did a Sunday JIT seminar with Victor and Shanji, and they basically took about 30 of the coaches through, kind of what, those guys, like what makes Six Blades and Shanji, and Victor the best in the world.
Congratulations on making it to the end of the video. Why don't you celebrate by watching more videos just like it? You can also help us on our quest to placate the algorithm gods by liking, sharing, subscribing, and commenting. Thank you.